So I've had a few questions asking about my general feeder rig that I use typically when I'm river fishing for chub and barbel. So I've spooled my reel up here with the 8-pound sinking mono, which is a really robust line, perfect for this kind of heavy feeder fishing. It's got a diameter of 26mm, and this is my sort of standard go-to rig for feeder fishing, typically with a block end but also with an open end. And I've sort of pre-started it. So the first thing I did was put this large Drennan gripper stop on the line. So I've threaded it on to the main line and we move that out of the way. I've threaded a decent size snap swivel on, and then I've put a Drennan swivel bead on. So that's the sort of 3 components that I'm using. Okay, so I'll push them out of the way, and then I'm going to create a loop. So I'm going to use the figure of 8 loop, and the length that I tie that loop is going to dictate the length of the bolt rig, if you like, the bolt rig effect. Now I tend to go for one around about 6 inches typically, so something like that. So I'm going to make my loop knot now. So this is the figure of 8 loop knot. Okay, there's the figure of 8. Just wet that. Now that's made the loop, and I'm going to cut the tag off that. Okay, now the swivel bead obviously comes with a swivel, and I'm going to put the swivel onto that loop by pushing the loop through the swivel eye and then bringing it back over itself. So obviously that's very, very neat and very, very strong. So I've now got the loop through that swivel eye, and that's the bottom of the rig, and I'm going to be able to tie my hook length to that swivel. Then I'm simply going to bring the bead down over the top, so that forms the bottom part of the rig, and then I've got the swivel that comes into play. Obviously I can put my lead or any feeder onto that swivel, and then the finishing touch is I just bring the gripper stop and I just pull that so that it covers up the knot. So what I've actually got there is, it's like the sort of traditional famous loop rig, but the massive advantage for me is that the swivel is running over the top of the loop. So you still benefit from the stiffness of having 2 pieces of line together, so it very seldom tangles, but I've still got the same bolt effect of the swivel hitting that gripper stop and hopefully the fish hooking itself. Now, if the massive advantage over this rig, over the loop rig, is that if I get a big fish or a fish that snags onto a rock or a branch, if that swivel is inside the loop, it's only going to crack you off. You're never going to get it back. But with this, with pressure, that gripper will move off and slide up the line, and hopefully the fish will dislodge the feeder or the lead, and you end up getting the fish. So lots of times when I've been barbel fishing or chub fishing on a river, I've actually come back after playing the fish and that gripper stop's about 6 foot up the main line. So that's telling me that it's done the job. The feeder or the lead's got stuck and it hasn't broken the line or the hook length. I've got the fish back, and it's a very, very safe self-hooking bolt rig. So I think you can see that. The swivel there at the bottom now, I'd attach my hook length with a loop, so I push the loop through the swivel back on itself, and I've got a very, very neat, strong, safe feeder rig.